Hello everyone, welcome back. Since the last video is now just over 100 of you, which is quite exciting. Today though, in this video, we're going to try and make a lamp from this walnut here. I bought this walnut about 2-3 years ago for reasons that I can't remember, and it's been sitting on the shelf. And yeah, let's get on with it. Right, so we have our corner posts. I cleaned up the machine marks with a hand plane just now. And as you've just seen, I cut a 25 by 25mm square section out of 2 of the corner posts. And that is because, as you can see from the CAD model, this is a floor lamp, but it's also going to be a glass cabinet. So there's going to be a hidden door. So this section is for the door. But now we've got our corner posts, we need to start cutting some slots for the louvers. On each face of the lamp, there are 60 individual louvers, which means that each corner post needs 120 slots cutting into it. And for that, we're going to go over to the CNC machine, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. This is my CNC machine. We're going to use it to cut the slots. So what we're going to do to start off with is I'm going to screw this offcut of 18mm MDF to the bed. I'm then going to cut a pocket that is the same size as the post, and then that will register in there, and that way I'll know exactly where it is in space. We'll then come in using a 4mm compression bit and cut our 60 slots. We'll then be able to rotate the corner post and come back again and cut another 60 slots, and then we'll be able to do that for all of our corner posts. While the CNC machine was cutting the slots, I've gone ahead and cut a couple more squares of walnut. These are 25mm square. They are the rails for the door either side. And I'm now going to take these back over to the machine and cut the slots in them for the louvers, and that will make our door. So I'm going to do that now. Just before I machine these are the door posts for either side of the door. and I'm going to put slots in. These were cut from the same board of walnut. As you can see there, we've got some nice flat faces, but if we spin them like this, we have a really big bow, and that is because when we have cut it through the saw, like this way, like this, the tension in the board has sprung it open. So hopefully that shouldn't be an issue, but what we're going to do is make sure that the sprung edges here are where our slots are going to go. So when we build the door, the rails of the door are bowing out like this, but the front and back are flat, and that means we can hopefully use the slats that are going to be holding this together to pull that in place. Cutting the slots into these could relieve some tension and flatten them some more, or it could make that worse, but we're just going to have to find that one out. So yeah, let's machine them. So now with the round over and the chamfer done on the corner posts, they're basically done for now. There's one more machining process to do on them, but I can only do that when the LEDs have arrived. So we're going to wait on that. So I'm going to sand these up to 120 grit and then give a layer of Danish oil on them. And while they're drying, I'm then going to start making the slats. So we're going to see that now. So I've sifted through the pile. I've got some 5mm stock that's already close to thickness. I've got quite a lot of this. This varies between 10.5 and 12mm thick. When I designed the lamp, I designed it around this because I can resaw this with a bandsaw, and that hopefully should give me my 4mm thick slats, and that'll give me double, two slats from each bit. And I've also got this here. This is completely random widths, and if I don't have enough of that stock, I'll go into this. And I think I will have to go into this, and I might even have to get some more because I've got a load of sapwood offcuts from this, which is why it's the sides off boards that have been cut off. But I just don't throw things away. So we'll see how that goes. So after resawing all the walnut, I then ran all those strips through the belt sander. At this point, my phone ran out of battery, so just imagine this over and over again. I've set up a stop block on the miter saw, and now all the strips are sanded, I'm just going to cut them all to length. So I have a tiny roundover bit installed in the router table. We're going to be taking our slats from this to this. So I've already set it up to be the right height and distance. Just because you can't really use a push stick in this application because the slats are so thin, I've pulled the fence really close to the bit, so it's quite hard to get in there. But I am also going to double-sided tape a small bit of wood as a cover there, which means that it will be impossible for me to get my fingers into the bit, which seems like a smart thing to do because I've got 240 odd of these to do, and it gets a bit mind-numbing, and that's when you make mistakes and end up, well, mincing fingers. But yeah, so I'll do that. After being cut to length and having the corners rounded over, I then ran all 240 strips back through the belt sander. That looks something like this. And if you thought that was thrilling, buckle up, because we're now going to start gluing things together. So I have the door glued up, and just before I forget, I need to put my slot for the LEDs into the corner posts. For that, I've got a 1/4 inch router bit in here. Once I've got the slot, then we can keep going with the glue up and get it all together. So I've cut one slot on the router table. It did work, and the slot is now the right size. However, it was just a little bit hairy, and I think I'm just going to do it a few more passes on the table saw. So that is now the main body of the lamp done. Brilliant. I'm now going to take this away and do some sanding and glue cleanup. Fortunately, pre-finishing all of the glue faces has meant that any squeeze out hasn't actually stuck and can just peel off. So the glue squeeze up shouldn't be too bad. And then I'm just going to sand all the faces ready for finish. Next, we're going to have a look at the top, the base and the legs. And for that, I'm going to use some 12mm birch ply, and I'll show you what I've come up with. As I just mentioned, I'm using 12mm birch ply for this. There's two reasons for that. The first reason is I've got lots of offcuts lying around, and this is a bit of an offcut project. The second reason is cable management. I'm going to be lighting this lamp with 4 LED strips with the wires running into the base. And if I cut the base out of 2 bits, I can, as you can see here, cut a channel into each bit. So when I layer them together, I have a route to run all the wires to one point and then out the back of the lamp together, which should make for hopefully some really clean cable management. And when that's done, they look like this. So we have our veneer sections ready to be veneered. I've gone ahead and glued up 2 layers of 12mm birch again for the top. There's no grooves in this because there's no wiring. And now that's dry, that's ready for veneer. I have 2 of these. I'm going to have one on the top of the lamp, and the second one is going to be on the top of the base, the top of the bottom of the lamp. And the undersides of both of those are going to be a book matched veneer. That's because this is quite an inefficient use of veneer. It has a lot of waste cutting it like this, and I'm running out. So we're ready to glue this now. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I've sized these so there's not a lot of overhang, about 2mm overhang on our blanks, and there's a good reason for that. So now we're ready to put this in the vacuum bag. So I just wanted to quickly explain what I meant earlier about overhangs while vacuum bagging with the veneer. If we overhang the veneer just a little bit, when we vacuum bag that, it's going to pull down and wrap around the edge, and that's fine as long as it's a small overhang. But if you go too much, which is very easy to do because you just think I'll cut it off once it's glued. If you go too much, when the vacuum bag wraps over, it pulls the veneer up like this, and all the glue that's under the veneer tends to seep towards the edge, and it puddles in this pocket. And then when you sand it, and you sand it flush with the veneer that's flat here, you sand through this and end up with veneer short of the edge and some ugly glue. It's just not a fun time really. So that's why you want to be really, 2-3mm at most really. And then you don't get that because it's just short enough to support itself and push down. But any more and it will bubble up. Right, so we have a couple of coats of finish on the veneer now, and that looks lovely. Very pleased with that. We do, however, still have an exposed edge of plywood, so in order to cover that up, I'm going to make some walnut capping, and that will sit over there, and we'll do nice mitered corners. And then that will finish that off nicely. The top is going to be dominoed onto the top of the lamp, so that will be nice and strong. The bottom I'm going to leave in two halves. So in the future, if the lamp does need rewiring, if those LEDs do fail, I'll be able to separate the base apart and have access to the wiring channels that I've created, belt and braces and all that. That does mean though, the two halves that come together to form the base, I'm going to cap it, but only attach the capping to the top. So if you were to roll the lamp on its side, you could unscrew the base and that would come apart and the capping would stay in place. And then all we have to do is hinge the door and finish it and wire it. We'll get to that. So we've done our edge banding onto the plywood. As I mentioned earlier, the base of this is removable, so it's just going to be screwed on. Before veneering this, I offered it up to the lamp and pre-drilled some screw holes into the center of the corner posts. I also pilot drilled down from the slots that I've made in the center of the slot into here. As you can see, my groove for the LED was a bit short, so I've just extended those in so the wire can run through. So this is now ready to screw on. So it should just be a case of and with the base on, we're now ready for our lower cover. Obviously, I'm going to take this off again, but just to show that this should just slot in there like that. And then that will have some wood screws holding those two plates together, and then you'll be able to take that on and off to have access to the wiring. So that's good. Right, onto the top. Attaching the top is obviously a bit more tricky because I can't just run screws straight through my lovely veneer finish. So in order to attach this, like anyone who makes anything on the internet, I will be using dominoes. This is slightly tricky because we have an overhang. One good thing about this is that because my top is perfectly square, any flex that I have in my lamp frame will be corrected and it will be held perfectly square, which will help when fitting the door in just a minute. An easy way of doing this would be probably to use dowels and just drill holes and put dowels in. But I don't have dowels on me right now. I'd have to make them, and that's going to take me longer than it will just to do this. So. Go. Right, so we are now fully sanded and ready for finish. As I've already mentioned, I will be using Danish oil, and the way I'm going to apply it is I'm going to spray it. I've never done this before, but I think it'd be interesting. I do a fair amount of spray lacquering, and that goes quite well. But the reason I'm spraying the Danish oil, I'm going to try and get a really thin coat on each time, is because with all the louvered surfaces and all those corners, I think applying it with a brush, you're going to end up with runs. Every time you try and poke in, you're going to get a lot of runs that you have to wipe up. And I think if I can get a really thin mist out of this and just coat every surface quite lightly, I'll probably still have to go back with a cloth and clear up any excess, but I think the excess will be less, and therefore I'm less likely to get any drips and runs that are annoying to clean up and take ages to dry. So I have a 1.8mm nozzle in this, I believe, which is meant to be good for automotive top coat or lacquer. I might be wrong on that one. I'm quite interested to see how this goes. I have never done it before, as I've already said, so we're going to give it a whirl and see what happens. I've already put the lamp in the spray booth, so we're just going to put some Danish oil in the gun and see what happens. So I've just put the third coat of finish on the lamp. That is now drying, and while that's drying, we're going to take a look at the LEDs, but first the adjustable shelves. Originally I was going to go with fixed shelves in this, then I realised I have perfectly even spacing running up the entire length of the lamp because of the louvers. So I am going to be using the louvers to support the shelves, and the way that's going to work is by taking some walnut strip, cutting it to length, and then angling the ends, you end up with these, and these slot into the lamp and rest on the ends of the louvers, and then you have a flat platform for which to place a clear perspex shelf like this. It was originally going to be toughened glass, but they have a minimum order quantity and it was going to end up being nearly £200 just for 4 shelves. So I thought, you know what, I'll wait until I have a larger toughened glass order that I can bolt on some smaller bits to, and I won't have to pay the minimum fee to get glass toughened. So now the shelves are sorted, we're going to have a look at the LEDs. Here are the LEDs we're going to be using. This is a regular LED strip encased in a silicone flexible housing. This will give us a nice warm orange glow that I think will go with the walnut quite well. It comes in 3-meter lengths, one end already wired up, cut one in half already. So what we're now going to do is cut into the silicone here to have access to our pads, and we're going to solder on some wire, and then we're ready to install it. Now we're going to install the LED strip, and that's just a case of running the wires through the holes in the base of the lamp and then pushing the rubberized silicone LED flex into the slot that I cut earlier. Then I'm going to run all of the wires to a 12-volt DC barrel plug in the back of the lamp. That's installed in a 10mm hole, nice and flush. And that means I can power the lamp on one of those really common mains voltage to 12-volt DC barrel connectors. And with the LEDs in, all we have to do is rehang the door, and then the lamp is done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it does look quite good. And hopefully the person I'm giving it to thinks that too. I'm pleased with the adjustable shelf solution. I like how the door fits. I might add a small brass handle to the door, but currently I like that you can't immediately tell that it is a door. One thing I would change is when I put the borders on the top and the base, I used a pin nailer to hold them in while I clamped them. I probably wouldn't do that again. It did make the glue up a bit easier, but as I used clamps anyway, I didn't need the pin nails. It just meant that I had those pinholes to fill. I've colour matched some wood filler and put it in the slot. That has covered it up quite well, but it's never going to be perfect, and it isn't perfect. So I probably wouldn't have done that again. Other than that, I'm really pleased, and I think it looks, I do think it looks quite good. Thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, I wanted to give those people viewing a little idea of what I want to do with this channel, because I started it early last year. And in January this year, I decided that I wanted to try and do one video a month. So January's video was the matchbox, and that makes this February's video. All joking aside, I do intend on getting a video a month out this year, so there might be a 2-video month happening at some point. But I have been busy with work. There are a few other projects I have on the go currently that I may or may not show on video. I haven't decided yet. One of them is a car. But for now, we're going to stick to furniture stuff, but I think I know what I'm doing next. I'm quite excited by it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.